The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of Paranormal Buzz Radio or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is strictly prohibited. For information on everything Paranormal Buzz Radio has to offer, visit our website, paranormalbuzzradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Listener discretion is advised.
Listen in as your host, Casey Colburn, brings together a perfectly picked panel of guests to discuss hot topics and events within the metaphysical and paranormal field. But don't worry, should the discussions get too heated, our studio switch will sound a cackle to simmer the cauldron back down. Listen for new episodes of Cauldron Talk with Casey Colburn every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. only on Paranormal Buzz Radio. Welcome to Cauldron Talk. This is Season 3, Episode 1. Today we are joined by Ash and Anna from Haunt Me. And today we are going to be talking a little bit about their show and a mini topic of fear. Welcome to Cauldron Talk. How are you guys doing?
Good. Yeah, doing great. Thanks for inviting us to be on your show.
Yes, absolutely. Can you give me a little bit about yourselves?
Sure. So my name is Ashley Brooks, and I am one of the co-founders and investigators on the web series Haunt Me.
My name is Anna Halloran. I am also an investigator on Haunt Me. I kind of found my way there, and they can't get rid of me now.
We're glad to have you, Anna.
Thanks, Ashley.
I enjoyed being on your guys' show too. How's that going so far for this new season?
Yeah, we're really excited. People seem to be receiving it very well. We're heading into sort of like the peak of the sequence of episodes, so we really start to get into a lot of the hefty part of the investigation, we'll say. So I'm excited to see the audience's reaction to that. What do you think, Ashley?
Yeah, it's been great. Being in past seasons, we'd only really focused on a location for a single episode. So getting to dive into the Hinsdale house over the course of a season has been really cool. And I think that getting to explore the history and the land, it's a really neat experience. And it seems like people are enjoying it so far.
Yeah, I like the approach to having multiple episodes for one location. I think that it just adds to it. I think gives more time to the location is a big thing, I think. And I think a lot of shows kind of fall on that. So yeah, it's definitely cool to see multiple episodes for one location, and then that way you can kind of really give it more than just a 30-minute thing.
For sure. The nice thing too is with this format, we can focus on the small moments as well. When we're going, 40 minutes per one location, we only get to feature the highlights. And there are so many detailed coincidences and moments that happen that lead us to the conclusions that we got, that we can now explore through this new format.
Yeah, I really enjoy it as well. I think that getting to see the story unfold, even though I know what happens, it's still exciting to watch how it goes throughout the weekend that we were there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely I enjoy the quality too of your show too. It definitely stands out compared to a lot of the other YouTube channels out there. So I'm very impressed, very happy that I could help with that a little bit. So
oh, thank you so much. We have an awesome production team and director. Shout out to Nick.
Yeah. So how did you guys get started?
Ash, I think that's your story to tell.
Okay, yeah. So we formed as a team back in, would have been, I think, November, December 20. it would have been about probably December 2011. So just about 10 years ago, we formed. And my friends, Ty and Carol, had been on a paranormal investigation team before that. Not one that filmed, just, a regular investigation team. And they were no longer on it. And I knew Ty was really excited to continue doing investigations. And I had gone on an investigation or two with him and really enjoyed it. And I've, always had paranormal experiences happening to me throughout my life. And our friend Nick had just graduated from film school, and we're kind of all looking for a project to start together. And so I gathered some other friends that were interested in this subject, and we just kind of set to work at seeing what we could do with it.
Really, really cool. That's a cool starting. I think a lot of teams forget where they started and why. And I think you guys definitely have that friendship that's very strong. When I met you guys, I could feel that. So hearing that that's how it started too is kind of a nice little thing to know. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, of course.
So if you guys had a favorite location, where would it be and why?
That's such a good question. I mean, the Hinsdale House will always have like a special shout out. Like, I think you have such an incredible opportunity there, and it's such a interesting and dynamic location. So yeah, I mean, if someone asked me to go back to the Hinsdale House, I certainly would in a heartbeat. I'd also go back to, oh God, so many to choose from. Belvoir Winery. We had a lot of experiences there and some things that were unexpected. So that was, and I think that was the first time I saw something that was like, I'm going to say otherworldly or like out of the norm. It wasn't ghost, it was creature more. And that was frightening for me.
Yeah, I think that I definitely had the most chance to delve deep at Hinsdale. So I agree with Anna. Special shout out to Hinsdale House. The other one that I would pick was probably Seguin Island, which is a small island off the coast of Maine that we went to. And I believe it was season 3 or 4. And that one was interesting because there's only boats that go to it for a certain kind of time in the day. So we were stuck there overnight, like stranded on this island. The boat wasn't coming back until the morning. And the island was tiny with this little lighthouse on it and a little house attached to that. And very spooky, very eerie. I think the feeling of isolation also intensified that too.
Such quintessential Maine, though.
Yes.
That's really cool. I haven't personally been to any place quite like that. You mentioned that you were at season 3 or 4 in that one. How many seasons are you guys up to with the show, and how many locations have you been to?
So the Hinsdale season would be season 8. And I think we visited usually about anywhere from 4 to 6 locations per season. Is that right, Anna?
Yeah. And, multiply that by 8. So I would say, math, 34. 14,
yeah, around 32,
yeah,
32.
Yeah. There we go.
Cool.
And some
Very
locations we've been to more than once because they just have always given us opportunity to explore, but they were worth it.
Sure. Yeah. That's how it is for me. I'm constantly going back and forth to the same locations. I get in a couple of new ones here and there, but usually for me, like I primarily am at the Hinsdale House, but I'm also at the Dunkirk Lighthouse a lot. I've been up to Greystone Manor quite a few times, so I stay pretty much local, but it's still, I enjoy being able to repeat locations, I guess, because I get to know the spirits a little bit better.
Exactly. You can form relationships with them,
Mhm.
which kind of invites trust and understanding, or at least hopefully.
I feel like I get a little bit more communication now too at Hinsdale than when I first started. I think because they are more comfortable with me now, they kind of come out more and talk to me a little bit more, and I know what to expect too from them. So it's kind of nice.
Has the way they communicate changed at all?
Not too much, not really. I mean, the man of the house is definitely sarcastic. I look at him way differently than when I originally started going to the house, because a lot of people, and I think I mentioned this too, a lot of people try to make him like this negative, aggressive entity, and I just don't get that from him. I get country boy, very sarcastic, a big brother, still with a lot of that like human personality. So just if you come in there guns blazing, he's gonna throw hands, and I don't blame him. I would do the same.
Definitely not.
So yeah, I definitely have a better understanding and relationship with the house and the spirits there. It's definitely growing. They're very sarcastic. That's something that I enjoy, that I've learned too over the time, is how humorous spirit is and what they actually like consider to be humor versus what we would consider to be humorous. So it's kind of nice. So,
that's really cool. I love that.
So in your travels, what's the creepiest or scariest thing that has happened to you on the show?
Anna, do you have one? I'm gonna think about it for a second.
Oh, I was gonna throw the bald man at you.
Oh, the bald man. Okay, yeah, that's fair. I think that's probably the most panicked I've been on the show, and it's a little embarrassing because it's captured on camera, but what are you gonna do? This was back at the Greater Rumford Community Center, GRCC, that would have been season 3. Anna, you were a camera person for us then, right?
Not season 3. So I had scouted the location, but I don't know that I made it to record this moment.
Okay. So we were in the basement of the community center, which has all these strange kind of like catacombs leading off of the main basement. So there's all these weird tunnels underground, and there's just a very heavy energy down there, even in just the regular basement. And I was just getting a really bizarre feeling as we were moving through the catacombs. And so I was walking behind 2 of the other investigators, and there was one cameraman behind us. So I was basically not in the back. Technically, the cameraman was in the back. And so I turned back at one point to look to see if he was still there. And standing behind him was this bald man. And it was really the most vivid apparition that I have seen. It looked just like a human standing there, but it had the feeling of a spirit, and it felt very sinister and frightening. And so I'm a little embarrassed to say that I screamed and ran in front of my other teammates and kind of hid behind them. And I'd like to hopefully think that I wouldn't react that way, but there was a moment at Hinsdale where I also screamed. So, it happens. But yeah, he was very sinister. And then I think Anna saw him later on a different year that you went, right?
Yeah, we had been back to this location so many times because it's accessible there. We were always welcome. So we were there for, I don't know, maybe it was an event, but I think it was up on this catwalk in this building. In the gym, there was a gym and had an old catwalk that was original in this building. Is like over 100 years old. And I was standing there, and across the way, I see this tall, bald man, and he's just looking over the edge of this catwalk, like he's like peering down on these people below him. And I was like, like I didn't know how to react to that. I mean, I think the only reason I did not scream and run the way Ash did was because he was far enough away.
Right.
I didn't feel like he could get me.
Yeah. I mean, he was right behind us, and he was blocking the only exit too. So that's why it was especially scary. And it was just a feeling that he gave off. It was a very slimy, kind of slippery feeling. And I think I was responding as much to the energy as the sighting. I've definitely seen apparitions before, but they're usually kind of veiled or more of like colors or lights or shadows. And he was very clear. I would have assumed he was a real human, but of course he was gone as soon as I looked back, and nobody else saw him.
Oh, so creepy.
Yeah. Do you think he's connected to the location, or do you think he is like just visiting or was brought there?
I think anything is possible, truly. That location, like, I mean, so as we've investigated over the years, right, we have found a correlation between like moving water and really haunted locations. And this particular location is like right near the river. So it wouldn't surprise me if like it was just a hotbed of all sorts of energies and elementals and different types of spirits and creatures. So maybe it's not a part of the building, but a part of, the land around it. Or, I mean, again, it's kind of like, with the Hinsdale house where so many people come through, somebody could have brought him, but I don't know why he would stick around if that was the case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting to know that Anna saw him what would have been at least 2 or 3 years later. So he was still there, or at least he appeared to Anna there again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I wonder if anybody else has like also experienced him, or maybe even just felt him, like if they're an empath or, a sensitive. I wonder if anybody else has experienced him. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's and I think, and that's a great question and something we can kind of explore, because like the great thing about having this series on YouTube is people comment if they've been there with their experiences, and you kind of get this conglomeration of people agreeing with or backing up your claims, or sometimes even refuting them, and that's cool too. So you really get this sort of plethora of knowledge even after a single investigation.
Yeah, it's really nice to have that like validation too. Though I know there's a lot that I'll say we don't really need the validation, it's still, I feel, very exciting, and it's just nice to have that camaraderie with it. So I think that's really cool.
Totally.
Anna, was that the most scared that you've been during an investigation with the bald man, or have you had another experience?
Actually, I mean, the most truly scared I've been at an investigation was at the GRCC, and it was in the gym. We were sitting there. I was on camera, and there were 2 investigators in front of me, and they were talking about watching something crawl into the gym. And I don't typically see things like, I think the bald man was on after years after Ashley saw it, was probably one of the first apparitions I've seen out of like 3. But anyway, so they're describing this thing as it comes crawling into the room. I can't see it. I'm trying to keep the camera on them. And we have, we're surrounded by beeping lights and, K2s and EMFs, and they're completely silent until they talk about it going around us. And so my back was to it, and there was an EMF detector behind me, and the EMF detector went off, and the floor shook like somebody had dropped something so heavy. And I leapt like out of my into their laps. Like it was like to have something. I mean, Ash, like it was pretty much as good as you screaming. Like I could not handle it. And I was pretty much done. Like they wanted to continue investigating. I was like, nope, you need to get me out of here. I'm freaking out. And actually, I considered never coming back to haunt me after that.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it was a fleeting moment. Like, I got over it the next day because I love this project and I love the people we work with. But damn, yeah, that was a moment.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like one though. I'm pretty desensitized, but I think that would even have me going a little bit. So
I would welcome some desensitization a little bit, I think.
yeah, I am. Well, working at the Hinsdale house, I've just become, I think, more and more desensitized over the years with it.
Mm-hmm.
My house is pretty haunted too, so I live with it constantly. And then going to work at the Hinsdale house, like it's an everyday thing for me now. So it's just I don't really get phased too much. I'm not saying I'm not cautious,
Right.
but I just, it takes a little bit more for me to get a jump scare or anything like that. So
Totally. Do the spirits at your home like hang out with you at the Hinsdale house? Like, I don't want to say like follow you, because like, everyone's like, oh, do you get followed by spirits? But like, I mean, I assume if they're friendly with you, they could walk with you to the Hinsdale house and maybe hang out with you there and then leave. Or like, does anything like that happen?
so I have a composite doll that is nicknamed Donnie, and he's a rebel. That's what he likes to say. And he does travel all over the place. He'll go to my sister's house, to my mom's house. I don't think he's ever gone to the Hinsdale house, but the spirits at the Hinsdale house has come to my house.
Ooh.
So that has happened. The spirits at my house typically will get kind of anxious feeling, like all stirred up when they're coming here, and I usually know that they are, and that something has happened at the Hinsdale house that they're like coming here to tell me about. They tattle a lot on things, so that happens. And at my mom's house, there's a spirit there named Jared, and Jared likes to say sup. And
Wow, how hip.
yeah, and he follows me all over the place. So
Interesting.
yeah, if I'm not getting any spirit communication, I usually can say, hey, Jared, can you please say sup? And, sure enough, it'll come through. So he's always there with me. We got the name through one of the spirit boxes, and we've always had like a feeling that somebody was there trying to communicate, trying to talk to us. And the name Jared came through, and above my mom's wash machine in her laundry room, there's written in crayon the name Jared, Mary, and Nick, I think, is the other one.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah, very, very strange. So
Wow.
it's connected to our house for sure. But I don't really know who he was. I know that there was a man who did die at my mom's house on the front steps. He had a heart attack and died. But that's all I know. So I don't think he would have said sup though. He was a little bit older.
Yeah. That's funny.
Mhm.
I have another question for you. So in our investigation at the Hinsdale house, we came in contact with a spirit that we believe by the name of Walter. Is that a name that you've come across at the Hinsdale house at all?
It's not a name that I've come across at all or have heard of. But that might be a good question for Dan. He really knows a lot more than I do, and within rights, it is his house, I guess. But no,
Does the Hinsdale house belong to anybody?
I've had a lot of people mistaken me for the owner, and I am not the owner. I do work there. I am there a lot, but I am not the owner. And I only have the information that is like public at the time. So
yeah.
But no,
Yeah.
Dan does tease me a lot and say, he asks me if I want to move in and things like that. So there is that.
Would you live there?
When he first started asking me, it was an absolutely not. And now it's my it is kind of like my home away from home. It's my zen out place. So I would definitely consider it at least maybe as a summer home because it gets really cold out there.
There you go.
But it's just very relaxing, very peaceful for me. I feel safe. I know the spirits there. I know how to make them leave me alone, if I want to be left alone. So for me, it would be okay, I think. For some other people, maybe not, especially if they like to do the provoking and things like that, then it probably wouldn't be a great idea. But
yeah, we did get some spirit activity that seemed to say that, some of the, I don't know exactly how it was worded because I was in the spirit box, but it's something about how some of the people coming in hurt the spirits like unintentionally.
Yeah, we get a lot of like baby witches that come in and they do all sorts of stuff, and that's what I am kind of there for, I think. I don't think me and Dan knew that originally, but now that I'm really starting to work with medicine and everything, I'm starting to be able to do the medicine work for the property and get rid of that energy that baby witches are bringing in and leaving behind. So it's kind of nice. I don't cleanse the house. I don't get rid of any of the spirits that are supposed to be there. I just basically, if somebody goes in and they do a rite or a spell or whatever it is they've done, I'll stop it. So I pretty much just cap it off or whatever it is I got to do, and I make it go away. So I know that the spirits are very thankful for that, because they've already got so much going on there. They really don't need anything more added to it. And I think if we allowed there to be more and more elementals or energies or whatever it is that's coming in, I think there's going to be butting heads eventually in the spirit world. So I don't think that's something we would be even prepared to deal with. So
you're bringing in balance to the house.
Yeah, balance, positivity, especially with the gardens and doing the tours and things like that, and everything Dan is doing all brings in that positive stuff. And not just my tours, but everybody's tours that come in. As long as, within reason, as long as they're not doing the rituals without permission and without doing provoking. If they're doing provoking, they're doing the rituals, they're probably causing a little bit of an issue there. But other than that, I think they're fine. So the only time I ever hear of anything like aggressive, like somebody getting pushed or shoved or scratched or anything like that, is when provoking or something that they aren't supposed to be doing goes on.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So this is all leading me into my next question and our mini topic for tonight. And I wanted to talk to you ladies about fear. So fear can mean a lot of different things. It can take on many different forms. What is fear to you?
I guess fear to me is sort of closing off, and it's kind of like a heavy, dense energy. And yeah, it's kind of closing off from source or closing off from light. That's why I would describe it sort of energetically, I guess. That's what it feels like to me anyway.
Interesting. Yeah. For me, I guess fear just tends to be synonymous with panic. So when Ash describes it as like a closing off, for me, it feels like a ramping up. Yeah, like, oh, I don't know how to explain it. Like, it's like all encompassing, I guess, and just takes over. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Does that make sense with what you feel, Ash?
Yeah, I think so. Because in the moment, you might feel like you're grounded, but then something that illicit fear happens. And then for me, feel like I become entirely ungrounded, and, your mind gets fogged, and it does kind of take over. That's very accurate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely get what you're like what you're saying. It's I mean, it comes down to our instincts, with fight or flight. And that's with all life, working as a dog trainer. Like, that's one of the things that I had to work with is fearful dogs. And sometimes, that would be like fearful aggression or submission. And so it comes out in many different ways. With fight or flight, do you guys think that you're more flighty when it comes to fear, or do you think you're going to stand there and fight?
Oh, Ash, I don't know. What do you do?
I mean, it really depends. I feel like when I first started investigating, I was much more flight. I would be much more reactive. And I feel like I've gotten more sure of myself and more confident in my ability to handle what arises, which definitely helps. But of course, there are moments where that kind of becomes harder to feel. And I think that, there were a couple moments actually when we were at Hinsdale that were quite frightening, or could have been, but I feel like I kind of closed them down. There was a time when I don't know, I was trying to do a ceremony for the spirits the last night we were there. And there was something, it felt like they were very responsive and like happy about it. And then something came through that was very dark and very angry. And I was just like, no, we're not going to do that. No. And it went away. So I feel like I've become more grounded in that. But it definitely took a long time to reach that point.
Yeah, I think for me, it depends on how much time there is to think. So, like when I think back to Belvoir, when I was doing a spell, not a spell, but I was setting out a grid to help us connect with the spirits, and the ice machine broke and started spewing water everywhere, just as I had finished putting everything together and setting the intention. And it was a moment of, oh crap, I fucked up. And so it was like, okay, am I gonna sit here and stare at it, or am I gonna do something? And I think fortunately, where it wasn't like life threatening, I could stand and fight and like go into action and get the towels to clean it up. But man, yeah, that instinct to run and hide, and just like, which like for me I think is intrinsically connected with like shame, is very real.
Yeah, it can be a difficult thing. I think some of my, like, getting back to the desensitization, like, does kind of stem from when I was working with dogs, just because working with like aggressive dogs and stuff, like it's potentially very dangerous. So I've learned that I have to like stay grounded, stay very calm. And like if the energy of the room is getting very high, very stressful, I have to bring my energy down lower. And then that way, because if I met that energy, all it's going to do is breed chaos, and then I can guarantee I'm going to get bit. So I've learned to like go into a like focus mode, I guess, when stresses of any kind are starting to arise. So it's something that I understand, but it's something that I'm slowly not experiencing anymore. I just kind of go into that focus, try to get things done type of thing.
What great practice.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I would not recommend that, if you wanted to get that type of like focus at desensitization, maybe don't go about the working with aggressive dogs part.
Fair.
But it has helped me. And I worked with a Caucasian mountain dog, which is like, they're bred to be aggressive, and they're like 180 pounds plus. And so it's a mini bear basically, and they're full of bite. So it was definitely I've worked with definitely quite a few complicated cases. And so it's, I don't know, I guess like I feel like if I can look at this thing snapping at me, then that's very physical. It's just hard to have fear with something that's not quite physical. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there are some parallels almost between the work that you're doing, on the Hinsdale land and the dog training. But like you said, one is more, ethereal.
So has fear in the paranormal field, we'll try to stick with that, has fear impacted your life and your work with it?
Go for it.
Oh, no, you go ahead. I'll remember my thought.
Yeah, so fear essentially is what drove me into the paranormal world. So I've told this story a lot, but every time I tell it, people connect with it, and the more I can get it out, the better. But what first really like kind of connected me to this whole paranormal thing was in college, I had a bout with OCD, and I was constantly in that fight or flight fear mode of getting possessed, of going to hell, of all of these like religious associations. And it was in my therapy and trying to control that that led me to the paranormal, which, by facing that fear every time we go out, I actually can control the OCD and the impulses that come with that, and that fear that comes with it. So yeah, the interesting thing is that they go hand in hand for me. It is both scary and healing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think growing up, having a lot of strange experiences, I often felt like they alienated me from people. I felt like I couldn't really talk to any of my peers about the things that were happening to me, or they'd make fun of me or call me weird or whatever. And so I, would often hide the things that were happening to me. And that only made them feel more frightening because it was something that I was dealing with entirely alone. And it wasn't until I, met some of my friends who ended up becoming members of Haunt Me that we really were able to open up and share that we had all kind of had these types of experiences. And it was so cathartic to be able to talk to other people about it. And I realized, there's probably a lot of people that feel that way, and being able to voice it in some ways, I think, does lessen the fear. But you have to kind of walk a fine line between, having a paranormal show. We don't want to really breed more fear. At least I don't. I'm not interested in like creating a scary show for people. I mean, it's definitely scary at times, but that's not my main goal of it. I think a lot of it is to bring healing and to help alleviate people's fear and misunderstandings around the paranormal.
That was great, Ashley. I'm so glad that you created Haunt Me. I'm so glad that you're back with Haunt Me. We need more of that in the world.
Oh, thanks, Anna. I'm really glad to be back too. Yeah, I left for a few years to focus on music, and honestly, there was a time where I was becoming very drained energetically from investigations. And so after kind of working on myself spiritually over the last few years, I feel like that really isn't happening. Now it seems like it almost builds me up again.
No, I definitely get that. I mean, there's times when, I even have to kind of take a little bit of a break, go do something else, get my mind off from it for just a moment. And like now, like with the Hinsdale house, like it's very, it's just my zen out place. It's like it takes all of the stress just right away, and I'm back to normal after being there. So I don't really get any like paranormal hangovers or anything from there. Other locations I do, but not that location. So I definitely understand where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, paranormal hangover is such a good description of what it is. It leaves you feeling exhausted and depleted. For anyone who hasn't experienced that, it really is like a psychic hangover.
Mm-hmm. So my last question, do you guys have any advice about dealing with fear or any methods of coping with fear that you'd like to share?
It's only temporary. That's the thing. At some point, you will stop being afraid. And, it could come on its own, or you can choose to do it.
That's a really good one, Anna, because sometimes when you're in that mode of fear, it feels like it's going to take everything over. And that's kind of like your life from now on. So that's great advice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think, finding, I mean, the best way to deal with it really is to, make it through scary situations in your life. And you, I guess, begin to build confidence in your ability to handle them as it comes. And having a strong spiritual practice or centering that's unique to you is very helpful. I know that's helpful for me. If I didn't have that, I think I would feel a lot less grounded, and that would leave me open or susceptible more to those energy drains or fear.
Yeah, I definitely, it's definitely helping me. Like I actually have a fear of, and I can't remember what it's called, but it is an actual phobia. It's a fear of losing loved ones. And working in the paranormal field has definitely helped me with it. So I just recently lost my dad, and I think it would be a lot harder if I didn't know like the transition process of a spirit. And he's already made himself like well known. He's turning on and off TVs and everything. So I mean, understanding that part of it has definitely helped me cope with it. So for me, the paranormal field has definitely helped with it.
Yeah, I'm sorry for your loss, but that is really
you.
Beautiful that you've been able to stay connected with him in some way.
Mm-hmm.
For
well,
sure.
Thank you. So he's super stubborn, super sarcastic. So I'm sure he's going to be around forever. Oh, well, awesome. I am so thankful that I can have you ladies on. I'm definitely going to call back to you guys some other time with another topic. If you guys can think of any topic too that you want to talk to me about, go right ahead. And thank you guys so much for being on my show.
Absolutely.
That would be great. Thank you for inviting us.
Yes, have a good night.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
To all of my listeners, be sure to check out their show Haunt Me. You can find it on YouTube at Haunt Me Official, or check out their website at haunt-me.com, and give them a like and follow on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Haunt Me Official. Thanks for listening. Thank you for joining my circle tonight. It was a pleasure to discuss this spooky topic with you, and a thank you to all my listeners for tuning in. And as always, dreadful dreams. Remember, my darlings, to always be kind to those around you, including our friends with claws, fangs, and fur.